Hello and welcome to a new season of the Coach McVay Show presented by Microsoft Surface. I'm JB Long with Super Bowl champion D'Marco Farr, the head coach of your Los Angeles Rams. Sean McVay coming off an overtime loss to the Detroit Lions. Next up, week 2 in Arizona. Well, that was a nightmare scenario last night in Detroit. Almost turned into a dream victory.
Yeah, I was proud of the way that our guys battled, JB. You know, there was a lot of adversity that we had to overcome, and I don't think you really learn about groups until you go through those storms. And to be in a situation against an excellent football team, and make no mistake about it, that's a really good football team. Well coached, they got great personnel, great scheme. They're checking all the boxes. Their expectations, I believe, is real, and that atmosphere was real. But we go down 17-3, and there was a lot of reasons for our guys to not feel like there's a belief, there's a confidence to just play the next play. And you don't reel off 17 in a row to get to 20-17 with 4.5 left without mentally and physically tough players, without the coaches just staying nice and steady. We came up short. We had some real injuries, and we had to make some real adjustments. And there had to be some necessary flexibility and fluidity from our players and coaches. And I thought that was on display. But ultimately, it's about how we move forward. You know, you're not used to sitting here. We've been very fortunate to win a lot of our openers, but it's the one game, and we got 16 of these guaranteed left. And whatever happened yesterday, we've got to be able to move forward accordingly. And I do trust that we have the right men, coaches and players to be able to do that. And I'm looking forward to doing that with these guys.
I heard you post-game. You said, I learned a lot about this group. And I know you guys preach about mental toughness and how to finish football games, but when you see it play out in front of you, does it kind of surprise you like, wow, they do believe in what we're talking about?
It doesn't, but I see better than I hear, you know, and I thought it was powerful to get to experience the things that if you were to say, were you going to bet on that group responding that way, I'd say, yes, I am going to bet on that. You can't ever mimic and emulate those types of scenarios or situations unless you're actually in those moments. And so there was a lot of reasons for me to be encouraged. But it is about how we move forward. You know, we're banged up. You guys are going to ask me about these injuries, and they're very real. And we're going to miss some good players for a significant amount of time. But that offers opportunities for other guys to be able to step up. And, you know, whether you look at it as fortunately or fortunately, I feel for the players because of the work that they put in. But we're going to pour into the guys that are going to get an opportunity to take steps forward, and it's not going to be anything, you know, that we're not capable of handling for the players and the coaches, even though you hate it for the guys that are going to be missing some time.
Do you want to rattle them off? You want me to kind of walk you through one by one, injury-wise?
What's your preference? How would you want to do this? Just joyous exercise.
Let's start with Puka, I guess. Injured reserve?
Puka's going to probably go to IR. He's got a grade 2 PCL sprain. It's the same knee. It's the same injury. It's just a little bit more significant. And it's a shame for him because he's worked so hard to get himself. I thought he had a great week of preparation. And you can see his impact on the game is immense. He had 4 targets, 4 catches for almost 50 yards in the minimum action he had. He had a jet sweep. He's competing without the ball. He attracts attention. And so that's a big loss. But guys did step up yesterday. We have guys that are capable, that have played a lot of meaningful football for us. But that is, you know, that's a deal that you hate it for him. Because when you're with him and he gets the information and, you know how bad he wants to be out there with his teammates to contribute and to be a part of this, it hurts him. He's going to be back at some point, though. So that's a positive. When that is, at what point, I don't know. But that is why IR is the most likely scenario, because it'll at least be for a month.
Steve played every snap as a rookie, unfortunately heading the same direction, it sounds like, with the knee.
You know, he got his MCL pretty good. He's a tough guy, and he's been resilient. You know, you're looking at it. Both of those guys were Iron Man in their own right as rookies, and unfortunately, you know, they go down. But they'll be back, and we'll get them back, and we'll be better when we do get them back. But in the meantime, it'll offer opportunities for other guys to be able to develop, to mature, and to be positive contributors for this football team, and we'll see exactly what that looks like.
God, he wanted to keep playing. Hard to say no.
Yeah, it was cool. It was pretty cool. I mean, Reggie Scott didn't think it was very cool, but, you know, at halftime, he ended up, you know, where they're telling me he's going to be out for a few weeks. And then I see him in the huddle for our first snap of the second half. And fortunately, it was at a clock stoppage. And so you get him off the field, but it shows you how much he wanted to be out there. And sometimes you have to protect these guys from themselves.
So, Sean, a couple of, real NFL world dynamics here. One, there is a limit to injured reserve per season, right? Like,
sure
like
is.
8 per year, and
yeah,
you're potentially
in terms of the guys that you can put on for the DI, designated to return, where they're only missing 4 weeks or whenever you decide to be able to bring them back. And, you're talking about you started KT Leviston on that. And you don't have to, once you put guys on, KT Leviston is an exception. You put him on that at the very beginning. So
Right.
he's one of those guys. You have Laro Murchison on there with the expectation to be able to bring him back at some point. Darius Williams is one of those guys as well. And so, you start to look at it, and before you know it, they start building up, and you're saying, man, we're only in week 1 when you only have really 8 of those for the whole year. But I think it's more than reasonable to expect why Puka and Steve are guys that would fit into that criteria if we need those roster spots, which we will.
And the other thing is a week 6 bye, which when it comes out in the spring, you're like, oh, that's earlier than Sean's ever had it. Probably not best. You'd love to have it down the schedule.
Yeah.
Maybe it kind of plays to your advantage here, where you can get 5 for the price of 4 weeks.
What I've tried to do, JB, is be really disciplined, and it's so hard about worrying about the things I can control. And that's one of those deals that in this situation, that's a glass half full approach where you're saying, all right, you don't want to be in these types of situations, scenarios, or circumstances, but if you are, an early buy does benefit where you're stealing a week in terms of some of the things that we're talking about right now. So that is a positive. But I think the most important thing for us to do is let's really focus on the progress. Let's really focus on the things we can control. And I do believe if we do that, it's going to give us the best opportunity to hunt up the results that we want. So we're sitting here feeling a little bit better about it. But there's so many things that take part in a game that you can't control. And I think I've gotten more disciplined, and I think our team is pretty disciplined in regards to let's look at it. Let's have no regrets. Let's really focus on the part of the process that we can control, and the things that we can't, let it go and keep it moving, man.
Who'd we miss on the list? Boom, one more?
Boom and Jacoby Durant are the other guys that are, Joe Noteboom, he got his ankle on the first play of the game.
Yeah.
And you could see he gets rolled up on, and he's battling through it. He played a handful more snaps, but it forced A.J. Curie to step in, and, he battled. But Joe is, I feel bad for Joe because Joe is tough. Joe's just had some unfortunate luck in terms of his availability, but he is a very important part of this team. He can play left tackle, he can play right tackle, he can play left guard, he can play right guard. He's done those things, but missing him, we missed him a lot yesterday, and that altered the way that we were able to play. But he got his ankle pretty good. Now, whether or not that's an IR guy or not, there's a possibility, but we'll see, but he'll be out for a little bit of time. I do know that much.
So speaking of the way you play, that's 3 offensive guys that are major contributors. When you lose that many, what do you do game plan wise? Like, what can we run? How do we run it?
Yeah.
How does that work for you?
Well, it's tough. And then you're not even mentioning that we already had Rob and Alaric out.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. It is challenging. But I will say this. I was really proud of Bo Limmer. The way that he came in. He is a mature rookie. It's not too big for him. He's tough. He's gutsy. He's gritty. He's one of our kind of guys. So I thought he did a really nice job. Jonah, to be able to play basically center for 2 weeks. Oh, and then let's go back to guard. You're doing that in the middle of a game, and he battled and competed, and I love, what he's all about. Thought K-Dot, you look at him, he's got an ankle injury. He's going to be day-to-day. He battled and finished the game, but it was and I thought Warren McClendon, held his own. Warren has really made tremendous growth and progress, but it is, it feels similar. I know we all know this to what some of the, challenges that we navigated in the 22 season, but I think we're better equipped to handle it in terms of let's worry about the things we can. Let's develop. Let's really focus on, how we move forward, and instead of, what we can't do. All right, what can we do? What's the best way to accentuate these guys' skill sets? What's the necessary flexibility and fluidity that we have to have as coaches, starting with myself, and then how does it put the players in the best spots to be able to go shine? And that's why once we get done with this, there's going to be a lot of hard work and deep thought process that goes into, trying to have that come to life throughout the course of this week, and then ultimately on Sunday when we play the Cardinals.
Could it be Rob at right and McClendon flipping to left?
It's a possibility.
You have a sense?
That's a possibility. But here's the thing. I don't want to put any – I think expectations can sometimes be a killer, and when they're not met, there's disappointment. And what I mean by that is Rob's done a great job of putting himself in a position to make progress. whenever he's ready, the doctors will tell us that. And if that is this week, man, I'll be really happy. But I think I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I think we'll see how the rest of this week goes. I know that he's chomping at the bit to be able to get back out there and to lead and to be a part of this thing, on the field. He certainly has been leading in his own right. But we'll see. That could certainly be a possibility, JB, but that's still to be determined.
He told me this morning walking in, and we got back late, so I didn't watch the whole game film, but Cooper had 21 targets.
Yep.
I was standing out there. I didn't know it was 21 targets, but it's nice to have that guy back, that one consistent thing that can win for you.
Yeah, and he caught 14 of them, and that's the thing. And some of them, there'll be some opportunities where, he was outstanding, and we asked so much of him, and it wasn't too much for him. And I thought he and Matthew, I thought Kyron Williams played really tough. I was really impressed with Colby Parkinson. We mentioned some of the guys up front, but I thought he and Matthew really, came to life in some of the most critical moments to be able to get us back in that game. And in the crunch time, situations, they did that. And I thought Cooper was the Cooper that we know. He's feeling good, and I thought his body of work where he could just go trust to go cut it loose and play was on display.
That little quick out, people say it's easy. That ain't easy.
No, that
if
is
it's
not.
easy, everybody would do it.
No, those are hard, and and those were things that we kind of had to resort to just based on some of the other things that we had discussed, and for those guys to consistently execute that, and for him to have as many catches where he's catching it with his back to the defense, there were some challenges, but he just kept swinging and he kept delivering and did a nice job.
Those are essentially your early down runs. I mean, those are first and 10 throws, right?
That's
But
right.
it takes elite arm talent to have the timing and the precision to make sure that's not a touchdown going the other direction.
Question.
There were a couple of hold your breath moments there.
There were.
How about the 20-yard toe drag swag?
Yeah, that was great. That was we had hit him on that same play earlier in the game when he had gotten Arnold flipped on our near sideline and came back to it. And, Matthew delivers a great ball. You could see Brance as an underneath defender was kind of in no man's land. There was a big cavity in between. And he put it over the top, and then Cooper to have that. I think the other thing, too, is an amazing catch. But just, there's certain guys that have just great sideline awareness. Yeah. To be able to make that play, to really understand, there's a subconscious feel that these great ones have. And certainly Cooper's sideline or back end line awareness in the end zone has always been one of his great traits, and I think that's consistent with some of the great players. But that was a big explosive that we had to have on a drive that Matthew went 8 for 8 that ended up giving us the lead there.
He said Stafford, so now I can talk about the quarterback. See, they
Go
think I
for it.
talk about him too much. Just unreal, just what he can do and how he's doing it. Just special player. Just one more gush about your quarterback.
Yeah, no, I mean, just gutsy, resilient, standing in there, keeping his eyes down the field. I thought he made some off-schedule plays. Thought he was at his best when we needed him, and he's so hard on himself. He'll be talking about the couple opportunities that he wants back, but you show me a great quarterback and a great game from a quarterback, they'll always want a couple plays back. He made some plays that we'd have no chance of being in that game without him. When we did get the ball back with 4.5 minutes, the throw to Demarcus Robinson to be able to convert on the third down to give us a fresh set of downs was magic. Some of the plays that he made on that, on the 8 throws that he did have that I alluded to on the, the drive that put us in front, they were great throws, and they were, he really pulled out every club in his bag to be able to make some of those different throws. And we just came up a little bit short, but as a competitor, if I'm him, he's got nothing but he should be nothing but proud, and he'll come back and he'll be ready to attack this week. But he instills a belief in everybody around him, regardless of the circumstances, and I think that's as big a compliment as you can give to your quarterback.
We had a chance to sit down with Tyler Johnson today. What a impressive young man he is.
He
and
is.
Seems so ready for this moment too. He's been on a championship team. He's worked with Tom Brady. He's been a part of your organization now. He and Jordan Whittington ready to step up and fill Puka's cleats?
I think so. And I think Tutu's ready to get some more opportunities. Tutu's a guy that's delivered for us, JB. There's a lot of different reasons when you put together certain, game plans, if you will, that can sometimes help guys get in the flow. And then sometimes just the way the game unfolds, it doesn't allow it to be illustrated that way. And so the answer is yes on both the guys that you asked about. And then I also think Tutu's going to be a factor. And once we finish up here, that'll represent, getting going and figuring out how to maximize that room. Because you've got Cooper, you've got Demarcus Robinson, and then you got 3 other guys that I just mentioned in Tutu and Tyler Johnson and Jordan Whittington that are smart, tough, physical football players. I mentioned our kind of guys, and then they all fall in alignment with that, and they all have kind of complementary skill sets that we got to do a good job of figuring out how to accentuate that.
I hope Jared Verse is your type of guy. I haven't watched the entire defense yet, but the mental reps that I have is him walking tackles back, Cam Curl knocking the hell out of everything.
Yep.
I thought the defense played like gangbusters.
I did too. I was really pleased, and that's an excellent offense, D'Marco. I mean, you look at it. I mean, these guys, I think they challenge you from personnel with the skill players. They've got a quarterback that knows exactly what they're trying to get done, and he can play on time and in rhythm with accuracy. They're excellent on the offensive line. They have great design in the run game. So it's a combination of scheme and personnel, and you're checking both of those boxes. And when you do that, you're really challenged. I thought our guys did a great job. You know, they fought they fought their tails off. I was really proud of them. You know, we have a couple things that we want back in that overtime period, but for the most part, I thought there was a lot of positives, a lot of things that we can take away, and I think our players know that too. You know, they wanted to be able to finish that deal. They have high expectations. I think a lot of people were probably surprised, but I don't think they were. And nobody in this building was, just based on the body of work that we've seen. I thought Chris and our defensive coaches did an excellent job. I thought they had some great flexibility based on some things that they were doing that allowed us to get off the grass in some known passing situations. And I thought a lot of the young guys or the new additions that you mentioned showed up. And I think a lot of the guys that we're familiar with, whether it's the Quentin Lakes, John Johnsons, Kobe Turners. I thought Byron Young showed up, and I thought Jacoby Durant had a pretty complete game as well.
What a pick by JJ.
What a pick is
right.
Oh,
my God. Collision and
in
a
that
catch.
moment,
Yeah.
shoot, I thought he knocked himself out. But that was such a huge play when they're getting ready to potentially go up 2 possessions, a 17-13 game. We had to have it. And then for that was great complimentary football on display. We get the turnover, and then the offense, takes the ball down the field and scores. And to just be able to finish it out against some of those great teams, that'll be one that we'll learn from, and we'll use it and we'll apply it the right way.
I don't want to be the guy who puts you in a position to sound like sour grapes, so please take this in the spirit
Sure.
where it's intended. But now that you kind of got the competition committee leadership role within the league, how do you feel about what we've done with the overtime rule, even though you're on the losing end of it?
Yeah, I mean, I felt for Indianapolis last year. Here's what I would say. It's tough when you go back and forth, and I understand it because over the course of a 17-game season, you're trying to say, let's not extend it. But it is tough, whether it's, obviously it's why they changed the playoff format to be the way that it is, so that at least each team's guaranteed a possession. That was tough, for a game to go back and forth like that and to not get an opportunity to go match it. And I'm sure Indianapolis felt that way last year when they get themselves back in a game. We're up with a big lead. We take the ball in overtime and we score, and Puka ends up having a walk-off. And so now in consecutive years, seeing it from both angles, it's tough. You would like to be able to get, would I have liked another shot? Of course. Do I think that Indianapolis, probably deserved another shot based on the way the game unfolded last year? Yeah, of course I do. And so, but that's what the rule is. And unfortunately, that's where we're at.
Funny, I didn't care last year.
Yeah. Well, you never know how the end of regulation leads into that, too. Like, your defense is on the field for a long time.
That's exactly right.
And they get a coin flip and a quick timeout to get right back out there.
No doubt.
So, there's something about this trip to face Arizona. It seems like in your career, the Rams have been shorthanded at times, needing to bounce back at times.
Yep.
Maybe the back against the wall a couple of times, and then you go see red and find a way. I hope that's the case again this week for you.
I do too. It'll be a great challenge. I mean, they went toe-to-toe, wire-to-wire. They're really well coached. They've added some new additions. I thought they looked excellent yesterday. I'm going to jump into the tape when we finish up, but we better be ready to go.
Yeah, I don't know how you could ever sleep on Kyler Murray. No matter what they're doing, how do you sleep on a guy like that?
Yeah. You don't, and he is dangerous, and they do an excellent job. And then defensively, they pose a lot of different problems that you have to prepare for.
I see you sliding in sleep.
Sliding in sleep.
Yeah, can't sleep on Kyler.
There
Can't
you go.
sleep tonight.
You heard that. See?
All three of us, especially
Catches
the
me
head
every
coach
time. Yes, sir.
of the Los Angeles Rams. Good to see you, Sean.
Yeah,
great
good to see you
effort.
guys.
Learned a lot about your
Appreciate
24
that.
Rams in Detroit.
Thanks, guys.
For Sean McVay, D'Marco Farr, I'm JB Long. This is the debut episode of the Coach McVay Show, always presented by Microsoft Surface.